So courtesy of a bye in round 2, we come into round 3 1-1, and we lose the die roll. I can't help but think I lost the die roll a lot during this this challenge. We'll see if I'm right. So we are, of course, going to reveal our Lurrus. Opponent does the same. This will almost certainly mean that we're playing the mirror. It's not a guarantee, but I was not aware of, coming to this event, I was not aware of any other Lurrus decks in the meta. We're going to start this off because we have a great hand. We have a Mental Misstep, we have a Swords to Plowshares, we have our Force of Will, and we're just like one land off being able to cast our Third Path Iconoclast. We're not going to fight over Preordain. We would like to hold a Mental Misstep for something much higher value, and opponent will have plenty of targets. So we'll play out our Pearl here. And we're going to get to snap off this Swords very quickly and remove what I consider to be one of the most threatening cards in this matchup. So we'll start by dropping our threat. We sequence it this way so that we can start maximizing our counters. We're going to go ahead and Swords. Opponent's got a Force. We are more than happy to force back. And now we get to go into opponent's turn with a Mental Misstep to deal with ancestral shenanigans, threats on the board, and a pretty fast clock, and a Pyroblast in our hand for when we untap. So we've just managed to draw really hot this game. Opponent puts his Lurrus in his hand, and we're going to go ahead and Brainstorm, I think, this turn. Just to... No? Okay. So I think I would have been keen to Brainstorm, although I guess... we don't really know where we want to go just yet. And we can do this in end step just as easily. So now we can Brainstorm. We're going to draw all the cards that we just saw. An opponent can no longer attack him with his Lurrus. Opponent's got a Force of Negation, we don't care about that. And a Ragavan. We've got no particular urgency about trying to move to combat here. I think at some point we are going to want to start cracking in, but until we can start pushing through enough damage that we negate lifelink, which means a minimum of, I think, 5 attackers a turn, then we don't really want to do it. So we're going to go ahead and Mental Misstep this Ragavan. And I'm not sure if Mental Misstepping there was right. It does get us an extra token, but opponent can replay his Lurrus pretty much infinitely. But that's alright. We are going to... This turn, I think we get to put our Lurrus in our hand and Preordain. And I think I don't care about Lavinia at this point, and I do like a Preordain. And there we go. There's the point where we should have started attacking. That's just where we can start turning the corner. So I assume opponent's just doing this to test us in the hope that at some point we'll decide not to, well, we miss blocking. It's pretty much free for him to do, so I totally understand. So we've got double preordained now, so we are going to... Oh, actually, this is a good idea. So get Lurrus, play Bauble. Opponent has a Swords to Plowshares. This is where we definitely should have held that misstep. But that's okay, we are very much starting to take the game over. Opponent is drawing Treasure Cruise, so we know we have interaction for that. And we will, I think, bottom the Force, top the Merchant Scroll. And so we naturally have the answer. And I think opponent will very likely concede to our Merchant Scroll here. So we'll take our Ancestral and we get the concession. So on to game two, where we are obviously going to be on the draw. And I think this is a fine hand to keep. Once again, we have a cantrip, we have interaction, we have a Dreadhorde Arcanist. And I think I can... So there's an argument as to whether or not this is correct, but there's a play I make here. So we're going to force the Arcanist. Opponent plays Lotus. So we will play out our Lotus and our own Arcanist. Now, obviously our Arcanist isn't going to be doing anything for a little bit just yet. We're going to need to start drawing some cantrips. But the nice thing about this is the moment we do, this will start to go off. So this gives us a very high upside and gives us, like one of the few really good non-Lurrus related ways to use our Lotus. We are absolutely going to trade a red Elemental Blast for an expressive iteration here. Iteration can go up on cards fairly easily and help our opponent hit their next land drop. So unfortunately, opponent has the Flusterstorm. So we get to take their Lotus, which they didn't get to use for a great deal of value. But their iteration will go off. And it is at Staticaster is a bit of a non-event here because we are just going to... Well, we're going to start by putting the Lurrus in our hand. We didn't matter the sequence for doing that, but we're now going to get maximum value out of our Reb. And remove the Staticaster. And here we get to deploy our Lurrus. We got no protection for it, but we're going up a card, and we have an Arcanist anyway. So it's just going to be getting harder and harder for them to, just push through our growing number of threats, basically. So, prismatic ending, which is unfortunate. Did we board our prismatic endings in? So this time we did. We were clever. So there we go. I can see I've dropped 2 baubles for 2 prismatic endings, as well as removing our Force of Negations for Flusterstorm and Red Elemental Blast. Brainstorm is a nice pickup here because we actually get to fetch in between as well. So here, I think we want to keep Lavinia Swords to Plowshares. We'll fetch. Move to combat. And we want the Lavinia to basically just start locking our opponent out. Now, I think I make a mistake stacking my brainstorm here. There we go, yep. So you can see I should have put the Scalding Tarn on top with a Volk underneath it, because that kind of leaves us drawing dead for 2 turns in a row instead of just 1, but it's not the end of the world. So opponent's got their own Lavinia, but no cards in hand, and so we're going to get to drop our third Path Iconoclast here. And Swords to Plowshares Lavinia. Crash in for 3. We've now got a very slow clock going. So we do have the ability to eat a Lurrus if it does end up on the board, barring where if it comes with a Lavinia attached. Like if opponent manages to go Lurrus Lavinia, we're probably in trouble, but as it stands outside of that sequence, I think we're looking pretty good. Like we just need to draw any 1-drop, any big spell. So another land, flooding a little bit here, and opponents packed it up. So so we managed to go to the end of the third match with a 2-1 record.